Silent City is a suspense thriller set around a heist during the current pandemic. Scott, our main character, must decide whether he can put the moral implications of the situation to one side and get the money that he needs, or to hold himself accountable and to do the right thing, even if it costs him. The script for the short film will be roughly about 8 pages. The short film will be inspired by heist films such as The Following and Inception, with stylistic inspirations from the likes of Paul Greengrass and John Cassavetes. The style I'll be trying to capture with my short film would be chaotic and fast-paced, as the characters are in a stressful situation with a finite amount of time. We will be showing the existential crisis the characters go through as they are faced with the very real possibility that if the robbery goes wrong, their lives as they know it could be over. I think this style would be most suited for the film as it deals with high stakes on a very personal level to the characters, so it should feel grounded in reality, but contrasting this, the character's mental stability is very much not grounded within the situation. A direct reference would be from the film Captain Phillips, especially the second half when Phillips is held hostage by Somali pirates. Except in my film these roles are reversed as the main anti-heroes are holding the caretaker hostage. I would want to replicate the claustrophobic and high-tension atmosphere of being in a hostage situation. There would also be an element of Stockholm Syndrome between the main characters and the hostage. This is also seen in Captain Phillips between Phillips and his captors. I've also done further research into other cases of Stockholm Syndrome such as Ariel Castro kidnappings, where the victims recount forming a bond with their kidnapper as a way to cope with the situation. The feedback I got on my script were mainly adjustments having to do with the structure of the script. It was suggested that the events of the script take place over the same night, as originally it was supposed to take place over a couple of nights. By doing this, it would make the script more tight and would reinforce the idea that there is a short window of opportunity to commit the robbery and should make the pacing more intense. Drafting your script and listening to people's opinion can be very important. To quote Amy Holden Jones, one of the big things you have to learn is who to listen to and when, and you can't listen to everyone. I valued the criticism and thought it was helpful in developing my script. A lot of the second draft of the script was cutting out unnecessary scenes and finding a way to streamline the story. The themes of the script are remaining the same despite the changes, and there are no radical changes happening from the initial idea of this story. The main theme of the script is to explore their internal moral dilemma stemming from the lifestyles of the main characters. A quote from Jean-Paul Sartre on existentialism I find to be quite relevant to what the main character is going through. There is no reality except in action. Man is nothing than his plan. He exists only to the extent that he fulfills himself. He is therefore nothing else than the ensemble of his acts, nothing else than his life. This basically means that your actions define you and determine your personal fulfillment and role in society. The coronavirus pandemic is the backdrop and the main driving force behind the robbery taking place. The characters in the short thrive off of taking advantage of people in vulnerable situations. In the short, we will see both of these examples explored as they take advantage of the pandemic and the caretaker. Preparing the production, I will be having rehearsals with the actors close to the shooting date. I would want the performances to be authentic and rooted in reality, so I would encourage improvisation during rehearsals and the shoot. I'll be using the same approach that John Cassavetes used in A Woman Under the Influence, as he encouraged improvisation for more believable performances from the actors. Here's a quote from John Cassavetes on his directing style, taken from an article by Ray Carney. I do a full and total screenplay, and then the actors come to me and tell me what they don't like. I listen to them. Then I try to get deeper into the characters and find out what they want to play. An acting method I would want to use from John Cassavetes, which he used at his time performing on stage, would be his approach to method acting, taught by Les Strasberg, based on Stanislavski's methods. Essentially, what this method was about was to put psychological depth in performances by drawing upon real-life experiences and backstories. As a lot of the characters in my short have backstories that are mainly left up to interpretation, I would encourage the actors to use this method and create backstories drawing upon relevant personal experiences. The characters in my film are in a high-stakes situation, so I'd want the reactions to come off as genuine and believable as someone under pressure. For the camera setup, there will only be 2 cameras needed. There will be no need for tripods unless it is an establishing shot, as I want a handheld style for when the heist is taking place, to emphasise the lack of control the characters have in the situation. The film will mainly take place in one location, so I would say that filming shouldn't take longer than a few days, so we'll try to film through scenes quickly. The lighting setup should help the pacing on set, as we'll be lighting for space, so we can get through shots quicker. Again, John Cassavetes, A Woman Under the Influence, will be used as a template for the lighting setup, as I'd want the same effect. The lighting will be used to light the scene properly, but will mainly be used in a way to let the actors move around the space more freely. For post-production, the editing style will be fast-paced and will not linger on shots for long, especially during the action scenes. Establishing shots may be the exception, but will still not take up much of the runtime. The runtime should be between 6 to 8 minutes and should not go over. To show the lack of people around, we'll be using a more dark grey to black tones on the colour palette to emphasise the absence of life. The colour palette will not be too exaggerated, as it could distract the audience and draw attention to the fact that this film is not real life. This will be a detriment to the project, as I want the film to feel like it takes place in our universe and mirrors reality. As the short takes place mostly in one location, it is important that we are familiar with the location. Representing space, making sure we know where everything is in the location, will be vital in several scenes to ramp up the tension, as we will know where everyone is within the space and how it might affect the characters. My approach to the soundtrack would be to use diegetic sounds which would ramp up the tension. A quote from Robert Brenton's Notes on the Cinematography, "The noises must become music," is a good example of how I want to use sound and utilise them into the film's soundtrack. I would put these diegetic sounds into a rhythm of either 1/4, 2/4 or 4/4 in order to have a continuous beat made up of these sounds, which would then make up the musical score.
See? Nobody home. Okay, first things first, we need a bag. Did you carry this stuff in white whisper?
And that brings us to the end. Thank you for listening.